let's start with prayer, and then we will go on. You want to lead us in prayer? Oh, okay. Okay, let's do it Catholic.
Well, if we have to.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Gracious Lord, help us to think clearly and to get to know you better, that we may work together and please you in all things, and be able to accept the great gift of love that you give us. Amen. Amen. Well, as I said, welcome to all of you. I know that there's some of you that are here from the parish. There are many people who are here from outside the parish. Met some of our listeners on the Show of Faith, because we invite the entire audience to come and join us. Allow me to introduce David Capes, Dr. David Capes. Dr. Capes is the Thomas J. Nelson. Thomas Nelson Professor of Biblical Theology at Houston Baptist University. That's right. Welcome. And to my left is Rabbi Stuart Federow. He is the senior rabbi, the only rabbi at the congregation Sha'ar HaShalom, and it is in Clear Lake, Texas. Welcome, Stuart. And I am the awesome pastor of St. Cyril of Alexandria, or as sometimes Stuart says, St. Cyril.
I only said that once, and they have never let me forget it. Either of us.
Cyril. I said one thing once, and you never let me forget it, so forget about it. And I'm sure it's going to bring it up. I know. I'm sure it's going to come up in one way or another. It will. So, this evening, we're going to do a mixed thing. We have a video that is very, very controversial. It is from the Jewish perspective, and I think
I'm not convinced of that. I have not seen it. Mario described it, and that doesn't sound...
Okay. Well, it purports to be, from a Jewish perspective, about a person who has a very negative image of God. So I want you to understand that this is...
but he's a believer. He's a very strong believer.
Yeah.
And for him, God is... believing in God is a problem.
Believer in what? When you say believer, that has certain connotations.
Well, we will, we warn you that this is, there's no gore or anything in it. It's just a very strong video that you can see in terms of the experience of one person. So, we're going to do that, and the issue really is going to be, we'll talk a few minutes after each of the video. We'll react to the video from our own perspective and talk a little bit about the image of God from our own perspective. And then, no more than 5, 7, 8 minutes apiece. And then we'll open it up for questions that are written and questions that are from the audience. Okay? So, why don't we lower the lights, and I think what we can do is just turn our chairs around here, and we can look at the video. So, let's put it down.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, yeah. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, yeah. Who was thrown in the fiery furnace? Who was thrown in the fiery furnace? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, yeah. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego.
When I was a child, my parents and teachers told me about a man who was very strong. They told me he could destroy the world. They told me he could lift mountains. They told me he could part the sea. It was important to keep the man happy. When we obeyed what the man had commanded, the man liked us. But when we didn't obey what he had commanded, he didn't like us. He hated us. Some days he hated us so much he killed us. Other days he let other people kill us. We call these days holidays. On Purim, we remembered how the Persians tried to kill us. On Passover, we remembered how the Egyptians tried to kill us. On Hanukkah, we remembered how the Greeks tried to kill us. Blessed is he, we prayed. As bad as these punishments could be, they were nothing compared to the punishments meted out to us by the man himself. Then there would be famines. Then there would be floods. Then there would be furious vengeance. This was the song we sang about him in kindergarten. God is here, God is there, God is truly everywhere. Then snacks and a fitful nap. I was raised like a veal in the Orthodox Jewish town of Muncie, New York, where it is forbidden to eat veal together with dairy. Having eaten veal, one was forbidden to eat dairy for 6 hours. Having eaten dairy, one was forbidden to eat veal for 3 hours. One was forbidden to eat pig forever, or at least until the Messiah arrived. It was then Rabbi Napier had taught us in the 4th grade that the wicked would be punished, the dead would be resurrected, and pigs would become kosher. The people of Muncie were terrified of God, and they taught me to be terrified of him too. They taught me about a woman named Sarah who would giggle, so he made her barren. About a man named Job who was sad and asked why. So God came down to the earth, grabbed Job by the collar, and howled, "Who the hell do you think you are?" And so, in early autumn, when the leaves choked, turned colors, and fell to their deaths, the people of Muncie gathered together in synagogues across the town and wondered, aloud and in unison, how God was going to kill them. Who will live and who will die, they prayed, who at his predestined time and who before his time, who by water and who by fire, who by sword, who by beast, who by famine, who by thirst, who by storm, who by plague, who by strangulation, and who by stoning. Then lunch and a fitful nap. It is Monday morning, 6 weeks after my wife and I learned that she is pregnant with our first child, and I am stopped at a traffic light. The kid doesn't have a chance. It's a trick. I know this, God. I know how he works. The baby will miscarry, or die during childbirth, or my wife will die during childbirth, or they'll both die during childbirth, or neither of them will die, and I'll think I'm in the clear, and then on the drive home from the hospital, we'll collide head-on with a drunk driver, and they'll both die later. That would be so God. The teachers from my youth are gone, the parents old, and mostly estranged. The man they told me about, though, he's still around. I can't shake him. I read Spinoza. I read Nietzsche. I read National Lampoon. Nothing helps. I live with him every day, and behold, he is still angry, still vengeful, still, eternally, pissed off.
Who is thrown in the fiery furnace? Who is thrown
I believe in God.
the fiery furnace? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego.
It's been a real problem for me.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, yeah. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, yeah. Who is thrown in the fiery furnace? Who is thrown in the
Anybody ever seen that before? Nobody?
But I'll bet you've seen a lot of material like it.
Meshach, Abednego.
And you know, the reason why I say that, even though you're shaking your head, that you haven't seen anything like it, is because I would compare this with literature produced by ex-Catholics who are turning around and hating Catholicism. Just like the author, creator of this probably was, I think was, a Hasid, which is the group of Orthodox, the kind of Orthodox Judaism that lives in the Muncie area that he's speaking of, who is now outside it and looking back and attacking it. This to me is comparable to ex-Catholic literature about Catholicism. Like a Barbie and Ken Bell, who recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's begin with just a reaction to the video from, and I want you to go first, just from our own experience. Remember, what we're going to deal with is the image of God. This person comes out with it's a God that almost haunts him.
But it's also a very, very skewed view. He said certain things about Judaism that even the people in Muncie wouldn't believe, wouldn't agree with.
Right. So since it's from a Jewish perspective, go and
Or maybe a post-Jewish perspective.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's exactly how I
I think we'd have to, if he still claims to be a Jew, I think he does. He still claims to be a Jew, but probably just not a Hasid.
Exactly. And then turning around and looking at Hasidism from an outside of Hasidic view, like an ex-Catholic who is now a Baptist would look back at Catholicism.
Okay.
That's exactly what I see.
So you have 8 minutes.
I don't know that I have a whole much more. Seriously, there's a whole lot.
I can't believe that.
Oh, you are so demanding.
I am known for being on time and having my homily short.
And I have a bridge I'd like to sell you after that. I know better than that.
They don't call me the late Father Mario for nothing.
We could get some opinions from
Not
the
a funny
audience.
statement. Okay. A couple of things. He talks of, well, actually, there is one thing I have to tell you. His description of the holidays of Passover, Hanukkah, Purim, I think that was it.
Right.
There's a very accurate but funny joke about Jewish holidays. Every Jewish holiday is the same. They tried to kill us, they didn't succeed, let's eat. And actually that is pretty much what he was trying to say. I think he completely misses the point about God's relationship with the Jewish people. I think he misrepresents a number of things, but I should have kept notes, that misrepresent even the Judaism that he would have found or been raised in Muncie, New York. He says that God is vengeful. I think that also plays into the Christian concept of the Jewish view, the Christian view of the Jewish view of God in the Hebrew Scriptures, and the superior way with which Christianity views its view of God in the New Testament. That the Jewish view of God is vengeful and everything he was saying and hateful, but Christianity has the God of love. So I think that what he was saying also plays into that. Which makes me wonder about what he did after he left Hasidism, but that's another issue. I don't know enough about the film. And it's
So what kind of image of God did you see there, and how do you agree or disagree?
The image of God I saw here was not so much an image of God as it was someone who has turned around and hated God and misrepresents God. Because the image I saw here of God portrayed is not a God I grew up with, not a God I grew up with in the orthodoxy of Springfield, Missouri, for whatever that was. Like a loving parent who really cares about a child and who will say to the child, this is the behavior I demand from you, and if you don't give it, you're going to be in trouble. Okay? But to say that separates a person from the love of God or separates a person from God directly isn't the Judaism I know, and it isn't the God I know. That sounds more like somebody who had a major guilt complex that he can't shake, and then turns around and blames Orthodox Judaism and God for his own craziness. I wish we could replay it and not have an ongoing commentary, but that's pretty much it.
Okay.